So welcome to everyone. I am Sciortino and I am the director of SEA Junction. Thank you for coming to the 11th update series on Myanmar. We have started with this series soon after the coup, and some people were optimistically thinking that few updates would be enough because the situation would be restored. Unfortunately, the pessimists among us have proven right, and we are almost 8 months into this coup, or as Omar likes to call it, is still a failed coup. We are going to discuss what is happening in the last few weeks, and again, we are very proud to have with us Khin Ohmar, a leading activist and expert, also woman activist. She has many different hats, but for sure very consistent in advocating for the rights of the people of Myanmar. And she has also been very active for asking the recognition of NUG and also of the ambassador to the UN. So she can tell us this both from the ground as well what is happening at the global level. Please, Omar.
Thank you, Leah. Thanks to all of you joining us again for this bi-weekly updating of the situation in Myanmar on the ground. So let me start with giving the very brief overview. And as Leah actually said, the situation now has, the time has passed more than 8 months. That's a long time actually, but we are not seeing the military stopping the violence on the ground. And those of you who follow Burma Myanmar for a long time, especially in the past military regime time, you will remember whenever there are big UN gatherings, UN meetings, such as the UN General Assembly or the Human Rights Council, the previous military regime will try to appease to the international community by taking some minimum gesture, like releasing some political prisoners, for example. And they want to take a credit of that in the UN resolutions, that they have taken some actions in response to the international community's call. But now, it's about two weeks now. The UN General Assembly is holding the 76th session of the Assembly, whereas also the Human Rights Council in Geneva is also having their 48th regular session. And what do we see on the ground in Myanmar is this military has given no consideration whatsoever to these international the UN meetings happening, knowingly that Myanmar issue will be discussed. So that also shows us how blended, how emboldened this military see that the international community will do nothing to stop them. So that's the very frustration I come today in sharing with you the situation on the ground. And we need all the help that we can from you, including the ideas and advice. Like, what do we do to shake these international actors, the UN Secretary General, to step up, to do more? How do we shake the ASEAN leaders to actually step up to do more? How do we get the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights, the AICHR, and the ACWC, ASEAN Commission on Women and Children, Protection of Women and Children? How do we shake up these bodies to do the work that they are mandated to do, that they are supposed to be doing, that they are not doing at all? So with that, let me give you the very brief update on where things are right now. 2 weeks ago, I reported to you that the sum of the data, but now after 2 weeks, now the number of the people who have been killed, at least 1,139. That is the 46 more deaths in the last 2 weeks, 46 more people being murdered. 8,184 have been arrested. So that's 366 more from the last time we spoke. And right now, 6,891 remain in detention. Most of them, we have no idea where they are being detained. And many of them are facing torture, severe torture, in fact. And the number of the death during the detention within the 24 hours or less than 24 hours from their arrest has now reached to 54. So at least 54 people were murdered, were killed during the first 24 hours of the interrogation. Many of the family members, they were informed, but they didn't get their bodies back. And those who were tortured and killed include the National League for Democracy, Aung San Suu Kyi's political party members, and also the CDM, the Civil Disobedience Movement, teachers, youth, and also the student activists. I want to talk about, today, I want to focus on the situation of the women. And as you see now that we are approach to the October, November, December, and these are the times that international community, and particularly the feminist movement, women's rights activists, and women's movements in different parts, those who are women working on the peace and security, they focus these months with their actions. So I really want to share with you now today how the women their experiences that they are encountering. Since the Spring Revolution started, the women, especially the young women activists, and also the young women from the labor sector, they were at the very forefront of the movement. They carry on with their resilience, their resistance, with the demonstrations on the streets, but also they are facing a lot of they are also facing the severe violence from the military. So I think I have reported in the earlier time that there were cases of reported rape and sexual violence in the detention. But now, just recently, in the last January, July, August, September, in those 3 months' time, there are cases of rape being reported in Sagaing and Chin, in Sagaing region in Upper Burma, and also in Chin state. And there was just one case that was reported that the soldiers came to one house and checked on, basically they saw the woman, and then they told to each other, oh, this one is for our captain. So this one is for our captain, and then they left. So of course that already told, like what is going to happen to her. So the woman actually had to flee from house. So when they came back, she's no longer there. The house was raided and destroyed. So can I, Boom, can I have the first photo, please? So this young woman, basically, she was actually, she jumped off from the fifth floor building, along with the other student activists, young activists. And the very reason is because they just realized that, they had a prior determination and decision that, instead of being arrested and tortured in hands of these ruthless murderers, they would rather just die. So basically, they actually, when they were cornered, that they had no way to escape, they just jumped off from the top, the rooftop. So that happened in Yangon on August 10. And along with the other colleagues, she also died. The next one. So her name is Wei Wei Nye, or people know her as Apple. And the next one, so her name is Khin Ohmar, and she's a leader of the youth group called Youth for a New Society. And she was arrested on September 19. And then along with the other activists. So I'm just bringing you the most recent cases. And there are like a bit like more or less 1,000 or so, 1,000 or more women are among those 6,000, over 6,000 detainees right now, almost 7,000 detainees right now. So this young woman, she's a student leader, student union leader, and she was arrested on September 19th. And she's well known among the youth activists because she's very defiant. And I can imagine of what kind of treatment that they have been facing. So this young woman, the next one, So Mimijo, she's an English major student at the Dawei University in southern part of Myanmar, and she was arrested on September 20th. So we don't know what is happening, but there was a case that one of them actually, she tried to commit suicide because of the torture that she couldn't take it anymore. So she tried to suicide by drinking something in the detention. So, I mean, she's at the hospital right now. And then last one that I want to show you. So this is a nurse. So it just happened on Saturday early morning, 1:30 a.m. in the morning in Yangon on September 25th. And there were about 4 of them, 4 young people, including her. They were publicly tortured and shot dead just in Yangon, the large city. So they were actually like shot dead to their head, like in the short range. So it's an executional style killing. So what I want to say about the women, the courage of the women that I'm seeing is just the demonstrations happening. You see many of these demonstrations being led by the young women until now. And I share with you on the on August 24, there was only the young women demonstration in solidarity with the Rohingya women. And later on, there are other theme every day that they have a different theme that they are bringing themselves to the streets. And then they are doing this sporadic peaceful demonstrations. And these are really led by the women. Also, their slogans are very powerful that, with the women power, they're going to topple and bring down the military. So now these young women who are now being arrested and detained and not knowing where they are, and it's very worrying for me, being a woman activist, and also I've been doing this. I've met with a countless number of military violence survivors, including many young women who are the rape survivors and gang rape survivors. That includes the ethnic women, the Kachin, the Lahu, the Karen, and also the Rohingya women. So when the Spring Revolution started in February, and when they started the arrest, they started to do the manhunt, these authorities, like these military forces, the police forces, they were calling out from the street angrily. They were calling out on the men to come out. They said, if you don't come out, we know you have wives and daughters. They will be raped if you don't come out and give in. So we know, I know, that's what they do. I have come to learn about the military rape since 1986. That's a long time ago. And I came to meet personally the rape survivors of the Myanmar military since 1998. So when I heard that, I knew this is going to be coming. When I started to see the young women being arrested and their families had nowhere of knowing where they are, that's what freaked me out. And later, as the military started the ground operations in the areas, like ethnic areas, including in the Chin, as well as also in the Burma majority central area, who never experienced the armed conflict, I knew this is coming. So now that the cases are being reported. One thing that I also now found from our local partners from the Karen reporting that women are being used as human shields. That happened in Chin State too, when the military took over the town, the Mindat, that happened also. There was a case of a young woman who was pregnant, who was used as a human shield to walk ahead of the military troops when they entered to seize the town. And then she was kicked and beaten up, and she actually lost the baby. She got injured. So there are these cases, also the cases of the human shield being used. The women are being used as human shield in Karen State, being reported in the last 2 months. So this sexual violence and also the violence against women is something other ethnic communities such as the Kachin and the Karen and the Mon, the Karenni, they have actually experienced for a long time. So now what I want to really call out to the ASEAN is, where are the bodies like the ASEAN Commission for the Protection of Women and Children? Why are they so silent? There is an ASEAN Declaration on the Violence Against Women. And I have raised this issue to the ASEAN ACWC in many of the civil society platforms. Then that was before all of this is happening. But this whole issue of the rape, including the massive rape against the Rohingya women in 2017. So I have raised this to the ASEAN bodies like the ACWC. I don't see any response whatsoever. So what's the point of having an ASEAN regional body to protect women and children when the most vulnerable in Myanmar are facing the extreme violence? So I am really, really upset and very disappointed in all of these bodies with, like all of the resources that they are using, and of course come from the people. But what is it that they're doing, right? So now I want to go to the next point of the update to you is, as I shared with you last time, there are many of the local people defense forces. They have different names, but they are operating in different parts of the country across, whether in urban or in rural, they are there. So now, especially in the northern and central, in connection between the north and central, west and central and north, there are more of the, and the eastern part also in Karenni State, there are more of these people defense forces collaborations are seen on the ground now when they attack the military. So there are more of these collaborations are happening. So we are seeing more of the military soldiers, Myanmar military soldiers are also being, they also lost a lot in their, attacks against the local communities and also in their operations against the people defense forces, as the people defense forces are stepping up with their response and they are defensive as well. So we're seeing all of these in the Karen, Karenni, Northern Shan, and also Chin and Kachin. There are also the ethnic armed organizations who are traditionally the local government for many of the different ethnic nationalities, such as the Kachin and the Karen. They are also in collaboration with the people defense forces. So many of these fightings are happening. And also there are a lot of bombings also including in like the former capital Yangon, there are also bombings. Interesting point is happening when the bombings happen. You can see the people, instead of being scared, they seem to be more like sort of like, they feel more like they are being protected. Their lives are being defended by these people defense forces. So that's a very different landscape on the ground as well. Of course, I'm sure people are also scared at the same time. But at the same time, when when they hear the bomb sound, you don't see the people scared and run away. So that's also very different people's, kind of opinion their opinion and their stand towards the People's Defense Forces. So that's very interesting. And I see also the national the NUG, National Unity Government, NUG, They have issued their code of conduct for the People Defense Force, and many People Defense Forces also issue their own code of conduct declaring of how they will conduct their activities. So that's also that they are there to defend the people's lives and protect the people's properties, but not to do any harm to the people. So these things are also happening on the ground. And now what we see is more military soldiers from the Myanmar military side are defecting. They are more and more are defecting now. So the Myanmar military, this is the first time ever in their throughout 70 years of the institution, they have never been to such situation where their soldiers are taking side with the people, bring in the arms. Many of them are, in fact, they are the one who are training the People Defense Force young people, along with the ethnic armed organizations. They are the ones training, including the police who are joining the civil disobedience movement. They are the one also taking the lead in the fighting and also giving the training. So that's a very different landscape in Myanmar right now, that Myanmar is no longer the country that you have known before. Even though you know all of the ethnic people's fight in the previous time too. So now on that side of the armed resistance, it seems to be like a much more coordinations are happening. But at the same time, the political defiance side, which is the people's daily protest and also daily resistance to the military, such as by not giving the taxes. People are refusing to give the taxes. People stop using their services from the military. People stop even this big lottery, the national lottery under the military. They are not buying anymore, and instead they are buying the lottery ticket from the national unity government, where the 50,000 tickets were sold in less than 24 hours, for example. So that's how people collectively are so determined in their fight against this military. But at the same time, of course, the military is not stopping with their attacks. And of course, they have all the heavy machines and ammunitions compared to the People Defense Forces. They don't have such ammunitions and arms. Of course, the ethnic armed organizations, they do have a certain, amount of the arms and ammunitions as the long-established armies, ethnic armies, they do. But of course, nobody has the arm. I mean, nobody has the, none of them have the air force, unlike the Myanmar military. So Myanmar military's leverage is more with the air force also. And they have also these, mortar shellings and RPG, these heavy launcher, these stuff. So for the People Defense Forces, of course, they don't. But for the military, that's where they take the advantage, using those heavy machines. So on September 18, they started attacking with the mortar shells to Thailand town in Chin State. So the Chin State, North and South, are all now in full resistance to the military at this point. And this town, especially after this town was attacked without any fighting on the ground. So the town was attacked on the September 18th in the afternoon, late afternoon. And then that also set the many houses on fire. And one Chin pastor, he was on his motorbike to extinguish the fire, to try to do that. He got shot to death, and his wedding finger was cut off to loot his wedding ring along with his cell phone. And after that violence, about 10,000 residents of Thailand town had to flee from the town. So people leaving entire villages or almost entire towns fleeing has been happening in the Chin State as well as in Magui and Sagai. Many villages been set on fire by the military, so people are actually fleeing. And also when the people flee into the village, into the nearby forests or jungles, the military chased down on the people who fled. And also not only that, they did the killing, but they plant the mines and they cover with the dead bodies over the mines. So when the family members of the villagers, when they came and they found their friends or family members are already dead on the ground, they pick up the body, the bomb, the mine exploded. So there were cases of the landmine being planted, covered with the dead bodies already happening. So now people don't even dare to go and pick up the dead bodies in those areas because they know the mines are being planted. So this is similar to what the ISIS has been doing. Yeah, so that's the very reason that we need also your help to raise the voice for us, to tell the United Nations, to the international community, that the Myanmar military is nothing but a criminal terrorist gang, a terrorist organization, that they need to be formally designated. They need to be formally designated as a criminal organization. And that's something that I want to call for your support. And I will just stop here. And yes, as like before, I would like to get your inquiries or questions that we can have an interaction. Thank you. Thanks, Leah. Thanks, Leah. Back to you.
Thank you very much. And indeed, was very moving to see the picture of all these very young women and know what is happening to them. I think especially as women and activists, as you say, fighting against violence against women all the time, it's particularly painful to think about their situation in prison. I want to ask a few questions. Now, the first may be related to what you have said, which I actually share your frustration about ICHR and so the ASEAN Human Rights Commission, as well as the ASEAN Women and Children. The ASEAN Human Rights Commission just had a meeting to discuss human rights in ASEAN just a few days ago in Jakarta. Now, what has come out of that? So that is the first question. What has come out? Any declaration, any stand, any discussion that you are aware of about that? Then, of course, if you can say more, it's been in the news quite a lot about the ambassador of Myanmar, and the choice for the moment is delayed until November. What is the implication of that? And what is the implication that he couldn't speak at the assembly? I mean, it was a deal, a compromise, but at the same time, he lost kind of his voice in the process. Can you tell us how you see this? I think these are the first two questions. In the meantime, I invite people to please write. Your question will go to the moderator, and then the moderator will forward it to me to avoid problem like ones we had with people interfering in the process. So please write it down, and then also or raise your hand if you want to ask any question. Please, Omar.
Thanks, Leah, for the question. So the AJAR, I would say that now they have the person to represent Myanmar who is from the military, who is the representative of the military junta. And usually in all of these ASEAN meetings, like, you know, the problem, as we all know, the problem with the ASEAN, the one of the major flaw of the ASEAN is this non-interference policy and the consensus decision making, right? So even to set the agenda with the Myanmar situation, as long as that representative don't agree, the other nine, they cannot set the agenda to discuss Myanmar. So it's quite it's really unfortunate to see such like a human rights commission. Other commissioners, they need to do something about it. I mean, this person, she doesn't represent the Myanmar people. The same thing in the ASEAN Commission for Women and Children, Protection of Women and Children, the ACWC. They don't have the representative of the Myanmar people. They don't have the representative of Myanmar country. They have the representative of the military, the illegal murderous military junta, What are they going to do? They mean the other 9 representatives in those bodies. What are they going to do about it? They must do something about it. First of all, they need to get rid of that person. And regardless of what this person is, and there must be a procedural and principles and procedural TOR and all of that they need to utilize. They need to exhaust as all the way to find the solution to remove these military hunters representatives. That's the first step. But also, even if they cannot get to that point yet, individually, these representatives should raise their voice, or even collectively without the name of the ACWC and AJAR, they can still raise their voice. And let us hear, let the people of Myanmar hear that they are there for the very mandate that they're supposed to be complying with, and which is the protection of the human rights of the ASEAN people. So I think I will just leave it there on this point, just saying that how disappointed and that I have been, and I am now even far worse. And I mean, you can imagine why the Myanmar people have a complete or even less than zero confidence in this ASEAN, anything of the ASEAN, really. And the ASEAN summit is coming next month. So will ASEAN still neglect the national unity government, which is the people elected government, people representative government? Will they still invite this international criminal, Myanmar, to sit to talk about this country that he is commanding to kill and rape and murder and all of those atrocity crimes? Where did the ASEAN, is it the ASEAN Declaration on the Prevention of Atrocities, for example? Where are all of these documents that, that the resources being used with the people's tax? Where are those documents? What is the usefulness of these documents that they have come up and agreed to put on paper? I mean, no wonder that, for all along, we always call the ASEAN as a paper tiger, because it is just a paper, because there's nothing, no teeth. The ASEAN has no teeth whatsoever, even to deal with such atrocities right in their, backyard, in their member country. So yeah, so that's one thing. Sorry about my frustration, and then it just come out, and sometimes I try to hold from the emotion, but everything what is happening to our country, it's really hard for me to do that. So now coming to the question on the Ambassador John Morton. Yes, he didn't take the floor to speak yesterday on, no, the day before yesterday, on Monday, in the General Assembly high-level meeting. But it's just a high-level meeting that's sort of like a compromise negotiation, but yes, it is true. The people of Myanmar didn't see him take that seat, but he has given interviews, both the international media, both to the international media as well as to the Myanmar media, so that the people, the general public, the Myanmar people will know, his situation, where he is and what he is doing. So he has given quite a lot of interviews where he explained the process to the Myanmar people, and also what, what he's been doing, what the messages that he's been given. So he is taking the floors in other meetings, and he will be taking the floor also in the remaining part of the General Assembly. He will still be a part of the other different meetings that he will be participating as the Myanmar representative. The General Assembly decision for his continuation as the Myanmar ambassador will come in November, because the credentials committee has not made the decision yet. And once that decision is made and passed on to the General Assembly, it will come for the General Assembly to take that their level of the whether they adopt it or they have another discussion in the GA if any country any member state raise. It's still hard to say at this point. But what I can say is that last week in particular, the high level meeting is the one that he couldn't join. It's sort of like a diplomatic curfew to some extent by some of these countries who, like, you know, as you read in the media, you know, between the US government and the Chinese government, for example. But I don't think they are the only governments. I'm sure there are others who are on the same page for Ambassador John Mouton to continue their credential, but also in that, you know, sort of like in exchange is not to attend the last week meeting. So it is sad. I am very, not only sad, I'm very angry. I'm very angry at the US government and also the other governments, you know, like this is against the charter. This is against the UN Charter's principles. He is the representative of the people of Myanmar and also the representative of the people government. So depriving his right to represent his country is against the charters, UN Charter's principle, and I'm not happy with that at all. Yeah, thank you for that question.
Thank you. Today you are very straightforward. I mean, normally you are straightforward, today even more. That we have a lot of questions here, so I will very briefly read, sometimes shorten some of them. So the first is where the army get the arms supply. Second, you mentioned that people are defecting from the military and the police forces are joining the civil disobedience movement. Do you think this will decrease the advantage that the military enjoy with more arms and ammunition and the Air Force, like you also mentioned it? From Pia, that was from Nitya, from Pia, what is your view on the value of sending cases to the IIIM mechanism in Geneva? From Anthony, and this will be the last for now, very sad report, extremely difficult situation. ASEAN and the United Nations seems to be powerless, like you say. Both India and China need to isolate the junta if any progress is to be made. Now, democratic India has an opportunity to take action. Has there been any contacts with the Indian government? I think if you answer, I know it's a very broad question, try to answer shortly so we have time for some other questions that are in the box here. Please,
thank you. So where the army gets, the Myanmar military gets the supplies, they get from like Russia and Israel, Ukraine, some of these countries, they get those supplies. And then the question on whether the military and police defecting more will be given advantage. Is it is the question, did I get it right? Whether they're more defected is advantage for the military or not?
No, whether, because they are defecting eventually will play in favor of the democratic force and kind of level off the advantage that at the moment the Myanmar military has. So they will lose in the process the advantage that they have. And
yes.
If I can relate to another question from John that just arrived before, because how widespread are these detections? At what level are they occurring? Are junior ranks or higher rank? And is it isolated events or is really unrevealing the command? I think these are related in the sense how strategic, what is the impact of this defection? Are they just a peripheral happening or they're really trying, indeed already affecting the military?
So, so first of all, like I said, this is the first time the top military leaders ever experienced such level of defecting from the institution to the other side. And that's actually is making them really nervous, including the Air Force. There is a case in Air Force that in one Air Force in Metila, that was a case also being reported. And so yes, more defector and more joining the movement, there are more increased leverage for the people's movement, for the ethnic armed organizations, National Unity Government, Defense Ministry, and the People Defense Forces. Yes, it falls in favor for the people's movement, for sure. But also, when you look at the defectors, there are at least two types. Yeah, one is the physical defecting with like bringing their arms. Yeah, but the other is also they remain in the military so that they can share the information. So you can imagine being from the army, like how they've been it's like a state within the state. The military, Myanmar military is a state within the state, and they have their own everything, yeah. But also the bondage that they have, and so when we see 3,000 soldiers joining, it's not only the 3,000. You can imagine of the connections that they have with their branch and their other colleagues who are remain. So the same thing with the police. So like so my point here is they some of them are still remain, but they are actually already a part of the movement. What level are joining? So far, up to the captain level are already in the physical defector side, yeah, who have been on the defector side physically. But also there are cases of 2 regional commanders who were actually arrested. In the army, when they were arrested, that means because they disobeyed the order. So that means they disobeyed the order to do all of these atrocities, to attack the PDF. So basically, I think that is very telling for us that, and I personally been hearing also, directly from some of the people, who have the connection to the inside military, because Myanmar military is large by size as well. So of course there are the family members also, or the relatives who have communication and who can get the information. Many want to join. The higher level within the Tamador, then within the Myanmar military, they want to join, but some of them are sort of like under house arrest situation to some extent, because they have to live in the camp, in the army base, or in the military kind of like a house quarter. So when even their children, when they want to go out, for example, they have to actually sign. They have to sign, and when they go out, they have to sign. When they come back in, they have to sign. And of course, the military is nervous because many of the young people who joined at the forefront of the Spring Revolution are also the children of the military leaders, as well as the police officials, high-level ones, yeah, high-level ones. That's why. I mean, when it comes to police, for example, even the regional, like a deputy commander level of the police even join, for example. So yes, there are many, and I anticipate there will be more. The National Unity Government has already, they have a plan, and they have also been working on that, reaching out to them and for them to join. So there are a lot of these things are happening, and the military soldiers' wives, military and the police and military officers' wives who join the people side, they are also speaking out. There is a public speaking forums are happening where they are sharing to the public about how they've been treated, how they've been ill-treated, and also how they've been sort of like, how they've been ill-treated and also why they joined the movement. So yes, I see there will be more and more joining on that from the military and the police. And with regards to the India and China, there are actually communications. I'm not a part of that, but I just know that there are communications also from the National Unity Government side to both countries, to actually really reaching out to them to support the democracy movement. India, in particular, after the 1988 democracy uprising, India government was one of the first who actually took the side with the Myanmar's democracy movement, but that has kind of faded away. But now, there are those who are also reaching out, including for the humanitarian aid access from their border, COVID-19 vaccines, things like that, is happening. But the very good thing is, like, as India, one of the state, neighboring with Myanmar, the Mizoram state government has been very supportive since the day one. Pretty much, the state government announced that they opened their door for those who are fleeing from the military violence, and they have given the shelter and humanitarian assistance to those who have fled across the border to their side. So that's a good thing. IIMM, whether it is what is the value of sending cases to the IIMM, I will say it is very important, because what we are establishing is this military's perpetuation or the long-term pattern of behavior of committing the international crimes with blanket impunity. For that, we need the strong criminal evidence, the collection and archiving of the evidences of those criminalities, the crimes that they are committing. And Myanmar has a long established track record of very credible local human rights documentation networks across in different parts of the country, especially in the ethnic areas, because of the military abuses. These atrocities happen to the ethnic areas for a long time. So the ethnic-based civil society organizations, such as the Human Rights Foundation of Monlan or Kachin Women Association Thailand or the Karen Human Rights Group, they have been collecting and documenting the human rights abuses for a long time, and they continue to be doing so. And especially with the Spring Revolution, the Assistant Association for Political Prisoner, the data that I could give you, that these are well verified and documented by the Assistant Association for Political Prisoner, and these are like a 20 years long experience established civil society groups on the human rights documentation. But when we want to bring the cases to the court, to the International Criminal Court or the ICC or the other, like Argentina case, like Argentina court or any of these legal proceedings, we need the documentations to get to the more criminal evidence and establish. So we need the IIMM. I was at the forefront of advocating for the Human Rights Council to set up such mechanism. So yes, it is very important. But the only thing, the challenge is that the body, the IIMM doesn't have the mandate to advocate to stop the violence right now. That's not part of their mandate. But what we need is we need them to take more further steps to coordinate with the other accountability mechanisms, such as the ICC or the ICJ. So I think that is something that I think the IIMM will be, maybe already even stepping up for this, like an increased level of cooperation and collaboration with the other international accountability mechanisms, such as the International Criminal Court. Yeah.
Thank you. So the last three questions from John again. How is the NUG functioning within the country, Naiding, outside? Of course, don't tell us all the secrets, but understanding better how they function. From Fabio, I read that the NUG has set up its first representative office in South Korea. Does this signal in any way a positive shift in terms of international support, or is still too little? This is my addition, this last part. Again, from the last friend, my friend and journalist, renowned journalist in Indonesia, Julie Ismartono, is there an attempt by the democratic forces to join force with the ethnic groups to fight together against the military? This would be a good time to unite, to fight a common enemy. So with this, I think we finished the round of questions. We still have about 10 minutes to.
Okay, thank you. I would just start with Julie. Nice to see you, Julie. Also, Julie, it's been a long time. So I think it's more of a comment from you, I would say, and also the suggestion, because you know the situation for a long time. So I would say that this is the time that the ethnic armed organizations, and also they are actually joining and supporting they've been supporting the people movement, Spring Revolution since the day one. Not all of them though. I mean, not all of them, meaning like not all of them in the physical way, but many of them, such as the Kachin and the Northern Alliance and the Karani, they are, and the Ta'ang army, they are already lending the support and collaborating, and also, yes, for the very common goal now. I mean, the Spring Revolution has brought everybody together, and this common vision to build Myanmar to be a federal democratic union has come to be much more clearer all the way to the grassroots, to the public. That's what it is set out for the people to move forward, not to go back to the status quo, not to turn back, but to move forward to this federal formation. And that is something also, especially, I mean, as you know, the Burma majority of the country under the previous military regimes and all along, they had a very little or limited sensitivity and understanding and sympathy towards the non-Burma ethnic people who have been suffering under the military boots for a long time. But now, in this Spring Revolution, they realize how ruthless this military, that everything that they've been hearing about what is happening to the Rohingya, to the Karen, and to the Kachin from the media, now they experience by themselves. So it is believing with their own experience. So the whole sympathy and understanding have brought the different communities to be joining hands together. The same thing goes to the ethnic communities, because for them also, I'm sure they must have thought this military is ruthless only towards the non-Burma community, only to us, but not to their own community, which is the Burma. But now, in the Spring Revolution, the non-Burma ethnic minority communities also saw that this military is so ruthless that they will not spare even their own Burma ethnic group, that they will do whatever it takes for their own power and greed, that they will do everything to crush any dissent, no matter from what ethnic or what community. So I think that has bring them to this common platform and setting up this agenda with the federal charter, that they are now working together to establish the roadmap, the political roadmap, including the constitution and this political arrangement, towards to move forward. So that is the good thing happening. That it is, of course, under the circumstances that they are all under attack, individually and also as a group. So it's very extremely challenging for the National Unity Government, or the EAO leaders, all the other political actors to actually do the work properly as they wish to do. They couldn't, because they have to work online and all of that, and they have to also stay safe from the military attacks physically, and also online. So there are all of these huge, immense challenges that they are facing, and yet they are determined as ever and carrying on with that political process. So that's something you don't read much in the news, because there is nothing much reporting on that yet. but the NUG is a major actor of that political process, along with the ethnic armed organizations. And so that's what I can share with you from how the NUG is functioning. They are also, by ministerial level, they are also doing, pretty much what they can, including, if it is a health ministry, they have the, like a health sector, CDM working with them, to care for the, those, including to combat the COVID-19. If it is a humanitarian ministry, they're trying to work with the international communities, humanitarian communities to work on the humanitarian. There's a huge food shortage, food scarcity in the country. So there are a lot of these humanitarian side that they are also trying to do. And the other ministries also the same. And like the foreign ministry, for example, like with the Ambassador John Moton, those sides, dealing with the international, they are also trying. And if you notice it, they've been well received. They've been invited and welcomed by many of the international governments, whether they are foreign ministries or their parliaments in different parts of the different countries, welcoming them, inviting them to speak, to take the floor, including Korea, Australia. So just to go to your another question on the NUG assigning the representatives, I see as a positive, because it's important that people representatives are actually taking the office in different countries, because the Myanmar embassies, most of them are under siege by the military. So we need the people representative, so that the government, the people's government, the NUG government representative in those countries are important. So in South Korea, as well as also in Australia, but I would even want them to be called as ambassador rather than representative, because as the NUG, I think, as a government, Ujo Moton is as much as the ambassador to the United Nations in New York. The other ones also can be also the ambassadors to those respective countries that they are residing. So that's will be my question. I mean, my answer to you. And I just want to one last point. Last week, I think some of you probably saw the National Unity Government's foreign minister and a few other ministers, as well as together with the Ambassador John Moton, they had a meeting face-to-face with the US government delegation to the UN General Assembly. And I think that's a good sign also. It's not a good sign. It's actually, it is something that, we take it as the US government taking more, stepping up more stepping up more with the actions to let us know that they are recognizing the National Unity Government as the most important entity, as in our term is our government, the Myanmar people's government. They are meeting. So I think that is important. Whereas the US government is not, they don't have the policy to meet with the Myanmar military junta directly in their own capacity. But again, they are going through the ASEAN, and that's a problematic. Yeah, that's it. That's a problematic. So back to you, Leah.
Yeah, well, I wait for your next column on ASEAN Women Commission and Human Rights Commission. I will conclude with the words of, there are other questions, but unfortunately, including on relief, being given through ASEAN again, and if you have heard anything, but I think we need to keep it for the next update in 2 weeks' time. I will finish with the word of Lisa. She said, thank you very much for sharing what is very awful in this last bit of the discussion. It is awful, and there is perhaps how the international community will finally come on board once they see that this is not a failed state, but is a failed coup. So after all the pain and sadness and of the beginning of the presentation, I think you have shown at the end that a lot is being done. and people are organizing and indeed able to move forward toward the advancement of democratic principle in Myanmar, and I hope also an example for the region. So thank you, Khin Ohmar, again for this update, and please to all of you, promote this update, share the video. The video is going to be on various social media channels, including on the website, on our website, Facebook, as well as Facebook of Progressive Voice and other affiliated groups. So please do promote and share the video, and don't miss the next update in 2 weeks' time. Thank you very much to everyone, and particular thanks to Khin Ohmar. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. Thanks to all of you also. I just want to end with one quote from the Myanmar people. They said, we have only us, meaning like they will have only by themselves to carry on with their fight, which is very sad, but also is very powerful.
Well, not only you. I mean, I am here, and few other people.
Are there. You are there.
Few other people are also here with you.
Yes.
I think the one who are here are really solid. Yeah, and we are trying all to do our little part to help. So please don't feel abandoned.
Thank you.
Although I understand that you refer to the major groups, which are indeed failing in defending what you're right. Yeah. So
thank you.
Again,
thank
you. Bye.
Okay,
bye.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.